Hi again, and welcome to Seekers and Cynics. My name is Richard Bentley, and this is Bodmin Road Church. And this week I'm going to continue. We've been looking at the theme of God and science, and can we in any way hold faith and science together. And last week we looked at the question of miracles, and this time I want to come to the area where probably there's the biggest conflict between Christianity and faith on the one hand and science on the other, and that is the whole question of origins of the physical universe, the Big Bang, and of the biological world, evolution. How on earth do we put any of those views together? Is it even possible? And I think for some people, and this is why I want to tackle this, it's a real barrier to faith. I think there are many people, and you may be one, for whom faith is attractive in many ways, but if you think you're going to have to believe something ridiculous about creation, then you're not going to do that, and so it's dismissed. And I want to help try and remove those barriers, because they can be removed. So we can't do it all in one session. I'm going to say some introductory things right now, and then we'll take 3 more sessions to look at each area of our universe. We'll look at the origins of the physical universe next time, Big Bang, the biological world, the time after that, evolution, and we'll finish off looking at one particular species within the biological world, and that's human beings, in the 3rd session, because we are rather different and rather special, and there are some different and distinctive questions when it comes to the origins of humanity. So that's the track we're going to take. What are my qualifications? Well, I do have a degree in physics and mathematics and a diploma in theology, so I have got a foot in both camps academically. And I thought I'd start with a little bit of my own story. I became a Christian when I was 16, and I found myself in a church which taught 6-day creationism. So by that I mean the church taught that the world was only 6, 8, 10,000 years old, and that it was created in a literal 6 days. And so although I was studying science at school and at college for A-levels, I didn't really question initially what church taught me. I took that on board and headed off to university, aged 18, and continued to annoy and hound people throughout my time at university with that sort of 6-day, very literal view. It was only coming out of university and into the world of work, and I worked for Cambridge University Press in academic publishing, that I began to become aware that that wasn't the only view that Christians held. That there were a wide spectrum of perfectly decent, sound Christians around the place who shared my faith in Jesus and who shared my love of the Bible, but who didn't take that very fundamentalist, creationist, literal view of Genesis. And I thought, oh, that's interesting. And that started me on a journey of reading and discovery, and my views have radically altered and changed over time as I've read and as I've studied both the science and a wider range of Christian writing. And I think what's important for all of us in this, whatever side of the argument you might think you're on, is that we have a commitment to truth, not just to digging in and defending our own position with guns, but are we prepared to think, to learn some more, to look some more, to consider the other view? That's what is really important. I found a fascinating quote, and forgive me if this is a little dig, but in these talks sometimes I'll take a dig at some hardline Christian views, and I'll certainly take a dig at science as well when people overstep the mark. But this view was expressed by St. Augustine 1500 or so years ago, and it's a reminder to Christians that they should not just dig in a position and close their eyes to the science and not engage with that. So Augustine said this. He said, "It very often happens that there is some question as to the earth or the sky or the other elements of the world, respecting which one who is not a Christian has knowledge, derived from most certain reasoning and observation. And it's very disgraceful and mischievous, and of all things carefully to be avoided, that a Christian, speaking of such matters as being according to the Scriptures, should be heard by an unbeliever talking such nonsense that the unbeliever, perceiving him to be as wide of the mark as east from west, can hardly restrain himself from laughing. There's a warning there that Christians should not just dig their head in the Bible and think that all the answers on this issue are there. Equally, there are times when science oversteps the mark. I have no problem with science per se. The scientific method is wonderful. But there's a sort of science philosophy that goes beyond good science and pure science. It's often referred to as scientism. It's a sort of a worldview which says the only truth there is, and the only truth that's meaningful and can be talked about, is truth which can be scientifically verified. And it sounds very coherent and solid until you realise that the statement itself doesn't pass its own test. The very foundation of scientism, which says science is all there is, well, that statement can't be experimentally verified. So I am very much against that worldview which says science is all there is. Science is a wonderful thing, but it must not overstep the boundaries. And actually, if we're humble and we'll go the journey, it's quite possible to come to the place where we see that science and faith offer a perfectly coherent and complementary view of origins. Science looks at the how and tries to describe how the universe has come about from careful observation, and we absolutely must pay respect to those studies. But faith looks at the who and asks the question, what is behind all of that how question? I can study the baking process of a cake in the oven right down to the very scientific details of what's happening, but that study will never tell me who put the cake in the oven or why they did so. And so there are different types of reason for something. Why is this cake good? Well, it's gone through a baking process in the oven. Why is this cake good? Because Grandma knew how to make it and she put it in the oven. And with the universe that we live in, we can take good assessment of the science and the processes that science reveals to us, without having to dismiss the possibility that behind all of that there is a who, there is a designer, there is a God. And so I think those two views can be quite complementary, provided neither side oversteps the mark. If you're not a Christian, I want to help remove those barriers. And the bottom line is this: there is a way through this maze. In order to hold a Christian faith, you don't have to ignore and dismiss a whole load of scientific evidence. Those things can be held together in a complementary way, and we'll look at how that's possible in the weeks to come. See you next time.